Hey guys, RST here again, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 upcoming smartphones of 2015. So starting off with number 1, we have the iPhone 6s and the 6s Plus. So this is the tick in Apple's product cycle, which means that it's more of a spec increase rather than a drastic design change. And so in terms of specs, we're going to see gig more RAM, which is really good because usually most Android phones on the market have about 3 gigs of RAM, and with this extra gig of RAM, the iPhone will now have 2 gigs of RAM, and yeah, so with 2 gigs of RAM, that's pretty good. It's almost 3 gigs, and the fact that since its launch, the iPhone hasn't ever had more than a gig of RAM. Also, we're also going to see a faster processor, which is the A9. And although Apple's processors aren't really faster, like gigahertz-wise, Apple has tuned iOS and its processors to work nicely so that they perform just as well as performing at 2.3 gigahertz. But in terms of the processor we'll be seeing in this phone, it's probably going to likely be an A9, considering that each of Apple's new processors increase featuring A and another number featuring adding on to Apple's previous processor. So an A9, iPhone 6 had an A8, iPhone 5s had an A7. It all increments by 1. So, and for the final spec, which is still a bit controversial at the moment, we're looking at an IGZO display. So, the reason an IGZO display is really good is because what an IGZO display does is that it delivers that like high-res display, like 2K, 4K, but at the same time it conserves battery and power. And this would be really good considering the fact that like me and many other iPhone users suffer from battery life issues. So this would be a really good addition onto it. So going on to number 2, we have the Galaxy Note 5. And with the Note 5, we're looking at some better specs than the S6, and we're looking at probably a better camera, 20 megapixels, 4 gigs of RAM. We're probably going to see USB 3.0 charging or the quick charging technology introduced in the S6, maybe some wireless charging. It's basically just a bigger and better S6 spec-wise and physically. And we might see a 5.8 or bigger display. I think it's going to stay at 5.7 inches just because making it even bigger would be just huge, too huge to handle. And in terms of display is a bit unknown at the moment just because whenever a Note comes out, it usually has a display better than its S variant. So the Note 4 had a Quad HD display, and the S6 also has a Quad HD Super AMOLED display. So we might either see the same display or what some are speculating to be a 4K display. This I really don't think is possible just because it would require an immense amount of processing power and would just kill the phone. But who knows, I may be wrong. Samsung always is known to have the best displays on a phone. And so, yeah, I think maybe a 4K display, maybe a 3K or 2K Super AMOLED like the S6. But overall, it's just going to be a bigger and better S6. Now on to number 3, we have the HTC One M9 Plus. So what the M9 Plus is basically just a bigger M9, and meaning that it's going to have the same exact specs as the M9 with 20 megapixel camera, octa-core processor, all that, but it's just going to be bigger, meaning like 5.5 inches in its display size. Now some are speculating it will have a bezel-free display, but considering HTC isn't really known to take those type of risks in terms of display, in that type of display-wise category. Samsung, obviously, yes, with the Edge display, but HTC isn't that type of company to make a bezel-free display. And the only other device that has it is the Aquos Crystal. My MacBook is glitching out on me. Yeah, so that's number 3. It's basically just going to be a bigger M9. The bezel-free display still the rumor just came out, but I'm expecting to just see a bigger M9. Now on to number 4, we have Project Ara. Now, Project Ara is Google's version of the phone blocks concept. Now, the phone blocks concept was basically saying that you had this one board, and with this phone board, you could swap in and swap out as many phone components as you want to make your own phone. And with this, what you could do is, like, let's say I had a Project Ara phone, and I wanted a bigger battery instead of a bigger camera. So if I could swap out that big camera for a bigger battery and put let's say a smaller camera chip into where the battery was. And so with this is just a step above customizing your smartphone. Motorola was gonna do Project Ara, but Google took the skunkworks of it after Motorola was sold off to Lenovo. But yeah, so far Project Ara was adopted by Yes, and Yes is now testing Project Ara in Puerto Rico, but is also displaying it at Mobile World Congress. Now, I am really excited for Project Ara just because it's an entirely new concept of phones, and it may be the future of how we build and how we buy phones. I mean, instead of just buying a new phone each year and recycling it, we could have this just one phone, and if one component dies, we can just swap it out for a new one. So yeah, that was number 4, Project Ara. And now on to number 5, we have the OnePlus 2. Now, if you're not familiar with OnePlus, OnePlus is a company created from ex-Oppo employees, and the OnePlus company is focused on making phones with flagship specs, such as quad-core processing, HD display, but at the same time, is making phones that are dirt cheap. The basic OnePlus phone, which is, I believe, the 32 gig, is about $350. And that is relatively cheap, considering that phones like the iPhone 6, which is 16 gig, is $650 unlocked. And the best thing about this, too, is it's also GSM unlocked. But yeah, it's a great concept. And with the OnePlus 2, we're obviously seeing some better specs, maybe. Some are speculating it might have a metal body, but some are saying no, because it would ruin the price. But I am also excited for this phone, just because it always delivers on great specs, and it is really cheap, because of the fact that many phones on this market, even the S6 that is coming out, is pretty expensive. So yeah, those are my top 5 upcoming phones for 2015. If you liked this video in any way, or if it informed you in any way, please make sure to subscribe and comment on what I should do next. Also, make sure to hit the thumbs up on the like button. Give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, this is RC signing off. Bye.